We are so back. Altergeist isn't really a stole deck anymore, and it's funny that I say that because the deck hasn't even changed all that much. In fact, strictly speaking, stalling is just as much a part of the game plan as it was before. It's just that you can't really call it a stole deck with how much more quickly it can finish games off now. Before we talk about everything that's new about the deck, I gotta make sure you're caught up to the manga. You're gonna need the full lore to understand everything I'm gonna be talking about today. Thankfully, we've already got a video telling you everything you need to know about Altergeist before this support, right down there at the top of the description. Go watch that if you don't know Altergeist that well, or if you feel like you need a refresher. We got 2 new cards and a skill, all of which are meant to make your games end faster. We got a super aggressive Link 4 monster, Altergeist Memory Again, that has an effect during the battle phase to tribute any monster you control and gain its attack, meaning that it can get to some pretty big numbers depending on what it's tributing. And since it's a quickie, you could attack with that monster before tributing it to get more damage overall. With that big attack stack, it could just one punch for game, but it doesn't just have to be one punch, because if it destroys a monster by battle, then you're allowed to attack with it again and destroy an opponent's card by a card effect. Destroying any opponent's card could be nice to get rid of an annoying back row, or even just to remove an opponent's monster so you can connect your monster's punch right into the opponent's chin. There's going to be a hell of a lot of damage, but what if the opponent has enough defense to stop it? Well, the way Altergeist plays is pretty much going to be the same as before. We would stall the opponent, surviving until we gain control of the board state, and once we are in control of the game state, we can stay in control mode until we've wasted enough of the opponent's resources, and that's when we strike, by going into Memory Again to attack, tribute, attack, destroy, and attack again. Before this new support, you could go into a Link 4 in the grind game. We used to be able to go into Borrow Load to beat big super protected monsters, and those same super protected monsters are probably even more afraid of Memory Again because it's gonna just kill them with the damage way better than Borrow Load could. Borrow Load though was something that did require a lot of resources to go into, and in the late game we would have enough resources to spare, but in the earlier turns it might be a bit risky to go into it because it would take us quite a while to get our resources back from grave if we did. But with Altergeist Pookuery, you're gonna be able to go into Altergeist Link plays a lot easier, a lot quicker, and without risk of losing resources. Pookuery can once per turn be used from your hand as link material for an Altergeist Link monster, allowing you to more easily go into Hextia by just having it in hand with an Altergeist monster on the board. It also has a grave effect though, once per duel, that if an Altergeist Link monster is link summoned, it can add itself back to your hand. You can use it as link material later on in the duel. That includes if you use it from your hand. So if you use it from your hand alongside an Altergeist on the field to go into Hextia, then the Pookuery is going to get itself back to your hand right away for next turn. Just remember though, it can be used from hand multiple times in a duel for link summons, but will only add itself back to hand once the whole duel. Having a way to get link material for your Altergeist links without actually having to summon more material is gonna let you keep some of your field resources if you need them, and it's gonna mean that you can get your bosses out faster. Being able to use it again on a follow-up turn too is gonna make link climbing into Memory Again a lot easier too, so you might actually be able to summon Memory Again a lot faster than you might expect. The new skill we got can actually help us out with the Pookuery as well. First of all, it gives you a stack of life points at the start of the duel, just like Life Point Boost Alpha, so if you are interested in playing that skill, then you might as well just play this one for the bonus effect. But on the second turn of the duel and onwards, you can send a monster from your field to the grave to set Altergeist Fiji alert to your field, and you can flip it up on the same turn.
Big man thing, yeah.
This card ain't good, bruv. I mean, you can read it in your own time if you like maybe in a really niche situation, its effect is gonna come up, but it's not gonna come up consistently enough for me to waste your time talking about it. What matters most is that this guy's an Altergeist monster. Why is that important? Well bro, in a trap deck like this, we need to be able to make some stronger plays when we go second. You can't activate traps on your first turn in this game, so if you go first, that's fine. You can just set your traps and pass. But if your opponent goes first, they're gonna have a bunch of defenses set up before you even get to start using traps. Having this skill means that if you play it, you can be a bit more aggressive.
Let me tell you why.
When you normal summon Melisy, can link it off into Link Rebo to get its search. It's awesome that you get that search, but now you got a Link Rebo sitting in your extra monster zone waiting to soak up an attack before you're able to summon Hextia. Hextia can't use a Link Rebo. She needs pure-blooded Altergeist. But hey, look at that. You can turn your Link Rebo into an Altergeist, flip that bad boy up, and summon Hextia with it and Pookie in hand. You can take advantage of this with your deck building too. If you want to be even stronger going second, you could use Mind Control to take your opponent's monster, turn it into an Altergeist with a skill, and use it with Pookie in hand for a Link summon, getting a Hextia out without even using your normal summon. Mind Control being a spell card that doesn't help you going first though, it might lead to bricky hands, and to really benefit from this play, you might also like to play more than one Pookuery, which might also lead to more cloggy hands too. But you could play Crackdown to steal an opponent's monster monster as an interruption since it is a trap card to trigger multi-faker, so that on a follow-up turn, you could turn the stolen monster into an Altergeist to go into your Altergeist links. Crackdown on mind control, taking opponent's monsters, could also be a way to have Memory Gint gain a bunch of attack, taking your opponent's biggest monster and tripling it with Memory Gint to make her big as hell. Now, I do have to be honest, alright, there have been a lot of people that have seen success with Crackdown. The skill makes the card a lot better for the deck, giving you more material to go into link summons while still interrupting the opponent, setting up your multi-faker, and clearing the opponent's board to make it easier to go for lethal. I do want to point out though that playing this card still comes with the risk of clogging up your monster zones, making it hard to go for the triple attack prevention, and it'll clog up your back row, making it harder to set more back row as the game goes on. You might be totally fine with this though, since it will help you end games faster, and it is completely up to you based on your playstyle and preferences. There's a really cool play you can do with Pookuery alongside Marionetta, where you normal summon Mario and have it set manifestation from the deck. Then you can use Pookie and Mario together to go into Hextia. On the opponent's turn, you'll be able to use Manny to bring back Mario to the zone that Hextia points to, so that you'll have a big Hextia with a back row negate, and so that you'll have a trap to trigger multi-faker's hand effect to summon itself. That play requiring both Mario and Pookie in hand is going to mean that this play isn't going to happen that often, unless you were to play multiple copies of both. That said, playing many copies of Pookie isn't going to play as nice with as many of the other Altergeists. Playing multiples of Mario isn't going to play as nice as many of the other Altergeists either. They are mainly good in combination, and if you would prefer to have more consistent hands, then you'll just grab these in the grind game with your search effects when you need them. If you do have a Pookie early in the game though, and use it to link summon, then it will just be sitting in your hand waiting to be used again next turn. If you have personal spoofing though, this would be a really easy card to shuffle back with it, since you can always get it back later when you want to use it again. Oh yeah, by the way, this isn't new in the game itself, but since the last video, spoofing got put to 2, so hell yeah, even more consistency for us. We can play limited to 1 cards now if we like. We got some more decisions to make when it comes to the kinds of traps you're going to want to play now too. I talked about what traps you could play in the original guide, and you can pretty much follow the same advice moving forward, but there is some other stuff you could use too. Meliseek isn't limited to 3 anymore, so you can play any of the limited 3 traps. The deck doesn't lock you out using any of them by any mechanics, it's just that with Ice Dragon's Prison and Crackdown, they might clog you up in some way or another, like I explained in the first video. We really want to prioritize traps that can be flipped up whenever we want, while still having those traps be solid interruptions. Floodgate Trap Hole is a pretty good budget option you could use. It's almost like a better Canadia depending on the situation, and has the same activation condition as Warning Point. The most optimal limit 3 traps I think you could use though are Lost Wind and Compulse. Compulse simply just being really easy removal that can target any kind of monster, and it can even return your own monsters to hand, like for example Pookuery, so you can use it again. Lost Wind targets a special summon monster and negates its effects permanently, and also permanently cuts its attack in half. Negating is really great interruption in general, and reducing attack is also really good for survival. The card really is just super nice for us, but even more than that, if you have it in grave when the opponent summons a monster from the extra deck, you get to set it to your field from grave again, but banish it when it leaves the field. If it didn't have that recursion effect, its own effect is already kinda good enough to interrupt and survive, but the fact that we can get it back to use on the following turn makes our grind game way better. It's really important to note that a monster with a continuous effect will be hard countered by this, like Ophion. If you negate Ophion with it, it won't just be negated for the turn, it'll be negated forever, and if they summon Requiem after this, then it'll just come back and negate Requiem next turn. Apart from these things, the trap selections are still going to be up to your personal preference. We just have more options now, but there is an honorary trap card that we could play, Magical Dimension. It's a quick play spell, not a trap, so it isn't going to trigger multi-faker's effect in hand to summon itself, but hear me out, alright? Hear me out. You could consider this to be like a Ballista Squad, because it tributes a spellcaster to destroy a monster on the field. It doesn't target, so it is going to help deal with boards easier, but the same effect also special summons a spellcaster from your hand. So the thing that we normally use traps for, getting multi-faker on the field, is going to be achieved with this card too, since it can special summon multi-faker from your hand by itself. Okay, so it fills the same purpose as traps, but we have to have a monster on board to even use it. And why not just use some other trap that doesn't need to tribute summon? Well, to be honest with you, bro, it's because of Ophion. Ophion searches a trap that'll bounce a couple of our back rows on end phase if we're unlucky enough to go second, making us way weaker. So we want to be able to summon an Altergeist and tribute it off turn 1 with this, just to get rid of Ophion so that they can't use their trap on our back row. We can safely set our back row, which can hopefully deal with their Requiem so that we can go ahead with our survival game plan. You don't necessarily have to play this card for this deck to function, but in this format it's going to be pretty helpful. In other formats you might feel safe to take it out for different tech choices. If you're going to play the mind control with this deck, you you could use that instead of Magical Dimension to take their Ophion instead, and it won't trigger or summon Multi-Faker, but at least you'll be able to turn their monster into a Fiji alert. This is my own Altergeist deck. When it comes to the Altergeist monster engine and the extra deck, there isn't really a whole lot of changes because the deck plays pretty much the same way as it did before. Just that when you're ready to start link climbing, you can go get your Pookuery if you need it, and instead of borrow load, I've got Memory Gint in here as it fills the same niche, getting rid of big annoying monsters. I also put in 1 for 1. This is here for an added bit of consistency to help us get Meliseek, but also as a way to play through interruptions if we need. There are other cards limited to 1 that you could play. Spellbook Knowledge can help you draw more cards from your deck by tributing a spellcaster. This could be another way to tribute Meliseek for its floating, and it could be a way to unclock your board for a nice bit of card draw. For the trap engine, we have to play the 2 spoofing for consistency and grind game, and at least 2 manifestation. I definitely think 3 manifestation is really damn good, and if you wanted to play a 3rd, you could cut down on something else if you wanted. But I wanted room for 1 for 1 and Magical Dimension, while still being able to have 3 limit 3 traps, while sticking to 20 cards for consistency. The Magical Dimension, I feel like, is definitely going to clog us up at 3 copies, and it really gets less and less helpful as the game goes on. So even though it isn't searchable, I don't think you really need more than 2 if you do choose to play it. The Lost Wind doesn't have to be Lost Wind. It could be Compulse, it could be Floodgate, it could be Warning Point, it could be Canadia, it could really be whatever is the most powerful trap you have, as long as it doesn't interfere with the deck's game plan, and as long as it's easy to flip up, not relying too much on timing. This is the build that I personally feel is going to be the most consistent and most solid for me, but if you want to take advantage of the new synergies with the skill, then you could play Crackdown as your limit 3 choice if you wanted. You could play more Pookuery and Marionetter to get your board set up faster. You could even try out Mind Control to see how you like it, though I think it's a little bit risky. You might notice that I'm not playing the new Altergeist skill in this list, and it isn't because I think it's bad or anything. I definitely think it's really good, especially being able to turn your Linkuriboh into an Altergeist if you aren't willing to take the risk of clogging up with Crackdown. Level 5 reload though lets us shuffle back Kunkery to draw another card. This isn't the biggest deal, but it does potentially give us another chance to draw into a trap card if we don't have one yet. And if we can search for Kunkery, we can use the skill after that search to try our luck at another draw. At the end of the day though, guys, I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck, I'm just here to show you how to play it. So without further ado, it's time to do. I only have 1 replay to show this time just because the deck works exactly the same as it did before, pretty much, just with a little bit of extra push. It's kind of going to be a perfect game to show you how this deck pushes. We're going against Clock Tower D Heroes, definitely an outdated deck, but they're using some new strategies in here. My thought process here is the field spell is going to prevent me from doing any battle damage to him, but at the same time, I feel like because of the fact that I have Lost Wind, 2 of them thanks by the way, I feel like I'm going to be able to survive either way. So I'm not going to go into Linkuriboh simply because going into Linkuriboh, if we can't tribute it, means that it's going to be clogging up our extra monster zone. So I feel fine with surviving with just a Meliseek here, so I'm choosing not to go into my Linkuriboh here. I attack for the BM, obviously, because it doesn't do any damage. On end phase, he's going to use MST, destroy his own field spell, summon the Dreadmaster, summon from grave as well. On his turn, he's going to summon another D hero and use both of those to go into Raider's Knight. He's going to go to activate it. We don't really want that because it's going to, kill us, you know what I mean? So we're going to use Lost Wind to negate it. We don't have a Multi-Faker right now, but it's okay. He's going to be able to destroy my Meliseek with his Raider's Knight, and it's going to search me the Multi-Faker, and making sure we do it on end phase. On end phase, we revive the Meliseek, trigger the Multi-Faker to summon itself. Multi-Faker, summon a Silk from deck. Silk bounce the Multi-Faker to get rid of one of his 2 back row, and then he passes it back to us. Of course, he's going to book us, but it doesn't really matter. On my turn though, I'm going to flip up, and here normally what you would do is you would bounce the manifestation back to hand if you wanted to bounce something else. However, I wanted to use the floating effect of Silk to chain block the Meliseek if he had some type of negate. So instead I'm going to bounce the Meliseek here, putting the Mani in grave to bounce his last remaining back row. Then I'm going to normal summon Meliseek, link summon, go into Hextia, chain link 1 Meliseek, chainlink 2 Silk to protect the Meliseek effect. So I get the back the trap regardless, and I get to search a Pookuery. Hell yeah, then I can use both of those to go into Prime Banshee, and that's going to trigger the Pookuery. But Pookuery is also going to be chain blocking the Hextia search. So Hextia is going to be chainlink 1 to search something. Pookuery is going to be chainlink 2 to add itself back. I'm going to search a Kunkery here. I'm going to use the Lost Wind, only using the Lost Wind to trigger my Multi-Faker from hand. Also keep in mind that the turn you use Multi-Faker, you're not allowed to summon anything except Altergeist before and afterward. So this is a play you couldn't have done with Borrow Load, but you can do it because we can now OTK using only Altergeist link monsters. So it's going to trigger the Multi-Faker. Multi-Faker is going to summon the the Marionetta from deck because it is the biggest one. Then I can link the Multi-Faker and Prime Banshee off. Prime Banshee is going to be chain link 1 to add a card back to hand. It's going to add back that Multi-Faker for a follow-up. I'm going to use my Marionetta attributing itself to get back Prime Banshee for even more attack points. I go level 5 reload, might as well, right? Battle phase, Merigant is going to tribute the Prime Banshee, 4900 attack, easy GG's. Guys, I'm ashamed to say it. I love Altergeist. I know, a stall deck. But can any of us choose what we love? It's just so satisfying to have such a solid survival game plan that leads into such an easy OTK. It's also just really cool to see all these prismatics lined up next to each other, you feel me? But hey guys, thanks for watching. Join the Discord, slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell to get notified on our next video. Have yourselves a good one, guys, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon, they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.